The NBA draft was yesterday, and a team that had a very intriguing night to many was the Oklahoma City Thunder. Some people believe the team were a loser on the night, and others view them as a winner. But personally, I don't think it matters. After last night, OKC has built themselves a young core that looks incredibly bright, and it could be good enough to surprise everyone next season with a playoff push. So, in today's video, I'll be taking a look at the Thunder's roster heading into 2022 and why I believe it can be good enough for them to potentially make a surprise playoff berth. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe. For more NBA content like this, I'm trying to reach 18,000 subscribers by September, so all support would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Firstly, let's take a look at the Thunder's draft haul from the first round. I've seen a lot of people confused by their picks, but personally, I think they did a fantastic job. With the 6th pick, the Thunder selected Josh Giddey, who I absolutely love as a prospect. Maybe I'm biased because I'm Australian, but I am extremely high on Giddey, and as someone who watched almost every game of his this past season in the NBL, I think that not only will he be a great NBA player, but also a great fit on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Though he is a bit unathletic, Giddey is arguably the most dynamic player in this draft. He's a solid shooter and has great size to power through on drives, but what he's best at is playmaking, and he is above and beyond the best player in this class at that aspect. The passes he was making are on a ridiculously high level, and he's someone I personally view as someone with a ton of upside. The way he's able to control the pace of the game and slow it down or speed it up to his liking is incredible and makes him such a fascinating prospect. LaMelo Ball was great in the NBL last year, and I have to say that Giddey was just as good in my opinion. He excelled in such a physical competition that the majority of draftees have yet to experience, so he's an NBA ready prospect. His fit next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is being overlooked completely too. He adds a spark on offense and provides even more playmaking to an already talented offensive core. What's great about this OK situation is there isn't a ton of pressure on Giddey initially, because he's still behind Gilgeous-Alexander in terms of creating offense. This can allow him to develop his shot creation and shooting touch as the season goes on, and hopefully by end of season come, he will be experiencing a lot larger role where he's a main offensive mastermind on this squad. The duo of him and SGA will be a must-watch combo. They have potential to be extremely fun, so this is an excellent pick by OKC. Obviously, plenty of people are not a fan of this draft selection, but let's be honest, the people who disagree with this pick have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. It's obvious that these people criticizing the pick have absolutely no knowledge of who Giddey is and the type of player he can become. Sure, maybe he was drafted a little high, but it's an outstanding selection for the Thunder. Do some research, people, before slandering this decision. Giddey is a far better fit than Bouknight and Kuminga were ever gonna be. Have some patience and you will see how great this draft selection was for OKC. The next pick in the draft for Oklahoma was Tre Mann, and again, this is a great choice. Mann is a purebred hooper who again adds to the insane fun of this young core. His ball handling in the pick and roll is quality, and overall, his shot creation is probably his biggest strength in his offensive arsenal. He's not a true 3-level scorer yet, but he's pretty close to that level, and I think the fact he's been placed behind Shai is great for him too. He'll learn a bunch off him. Coming off the bench, he'll provide more flashy scoring prowess to this team and should be given plenty of opportunity to develop his game with experience. His baseline skill set is already good enough for him to be a solid contributor at the NBA level, so if his development goes well, he can be an essential part of this young core moving forward. To me, Mann is a bit of a wait-and-see prospect, but I think he's good enough on paper to be considered a win selection for OKC in this draft. With that being said now though, let's take a look at some of the other players in OKC's young core and why I believe that they can elevate this team to potentially a playoff spot next season. The first player that excites me the most in OKC's core has to be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. SGA had a breakout year this season for the Thunder, averaging career best figures of 23.7 points, 6 assists, and 51, 42, 81 shooting splits, which is ridiculously efficient. It's evident he's learnt a ton from his time with Chris Paul, and with a bolstered roster around him next year, SGA will look to take the team far and probably see another leap in his game. Shai carried this team pretty hard last season offensively. He led the league in self-creation, meaning he was getting shots for himself more than anyone else. So for him to be able to maintain that high efficiency is pretty crazy and gives me a sense that he will be even better next season with a stronger supporting cast. I mean, the Thunder were genuinely in the play-in tournament hunts last season until Gilgeous-Alexander got injured, and I have a feeling the Thunder kept him out for longer than needed because he was winning them so many games. His impact on an otherwise dismal team has been quite underrated. I won't go in too much more depth here because we all know how amazing Shai is and how good he can be, and I've already discussed how well the new draftees fit alongside him and can further elevate his game. Just know that Shai should take another leap this season and reach perennial all-star territory, and in turn, that should lead to a solid bounce-back season from OKC. The next player in this young core who's been amazing to see the rise of into a solid NBA player is Lu Dort. Dort's rise came back in the 2020 bubble where his amazing defensive capability was on full display, but one question mark around his game has always been his offense. He's not a great shooter or shot creator, but with more minutes and confidence under his belt, Dort improved significantly in his sophomore season as his three-point percentage is now only a couple percent below league average, and his points per game rose to 15 from only 6 in his rookie year. Dort is still quite young and has shown high potential, and for a team that's not great defensively, his impact is immeasurable. So he evidently adds a ton to the Thunder's young core and will be instrumental to their success next season. The Thunder also have a ton of raw prospects that I'm really excited to see develop next season. These guys include Darius Bazley, Isaiah Roby, Theo Maledon, and Alec Pokusevski. Bazley took a big leap this season as he became a permanent starter for Oklahoma, and he continued to show promise as a key member of this team in the future. His shooting will be a big focus next season. Like Dort, it does need improvement, but I think his role as a permanent starter shows what the staff think of him and how important he is to this team's rebuild. Roby had an amazing second half to his sophomore season, earning himself a starting role for 37 of his 64 games, so it's clear he can be a valuable contributor if he's utilized correctly. Same goes for Maledon, who, though inefficient, showed some promising signs towards the end of the regular season where it was clear his confidence grew. Out of all these project players though, Pokusevski, who I'll just call Poku, is by far the most interesting of them all. His frame and skill set combination makes him such a unique player, and one that could be a threat when paired with SGA and Giddey. He's still very raw and has a lot of things to work on, but the potential is there. Add some strength, cut down on the turnovers, and get some more shots up, and the Thunder could be looking at a very talented player down the track. Finally, the last player I want to talk about today is Kemba Walker. At this point, it's unclear if Kemba is to remain on the team long term, but either way, I don't see it as a negative. When the trade was initially announced, I was a big fan of it for OKC, and I believe his fit next to Shai was great. Shai had a heavy load last season, so removing some of that pressure and allowing him to create offense in other ways is certainly going to be a positive. With Giddey on the team now though, I think trading Kemba away would be a better option, but I still don't mind the idea of him being on the roster, at least to start the season. He still can play at a high level, and in an environment with less pressure, there's a good chance he returns to pre-Boston levels. I think we'd see a lot less cardio Kemba and a lot more cardiac Kemba. In the end, whatever OKC does with Walker really shouldn't matter, because with or without him, this is a team that can be extremely competitive moving forward. So those are all the players I want to talk about today. Those guys are the people I see making a big impact for the Thunder next season and could allow them to make a surprising playoff push. But how good are the Thunder actually going into next season at this point? What is a reasonable expectation for them? As of when recording this video at the end of July, I think it's reasonable to expect that OKC would be like a 13th seed next season or a 12th seed, somewhere around there. They won't be terrible and be bottom feeders, but also the West is loaded, especially in that 6 to 11 range, so I think it's not hard to imagine them falling behind a bit, especially with such a young, inexperienced team. However, that's me being slightly pessimistic as a realist. I also believe this team has potential to be a play-in tournament side, potentially the 8th seed at best. If things go their way throughout the season, like SGA continuing to improve and guys like Giddey making an instant positive impact, they are certainly within reach of a playoff berth, or at the very least, a play-in tournament spot. I view the Jazz, Suns, Nuggets, Clippers, Lakers, Mavericks, Warriors, and Trailblazers, if they keep Dame, as being better than the Thunder right now quite easily. So that's kind of the top 8 spots gone. With the Wolves and Rockets still figuring things out, the Spurs and Kings looking to be in a very poor position, and question marks around the Pelicans' future right now, I definitely think that the Thunder are within a shot of having a season like the Hornets just had with rookie LaMelo Ball and make a strong push for a play-in tournament spot. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a special talent and definitely has the capability to lift this team to a play-in spot with a strengthened supporting cast. Again, I don't think his impact is talked about enough, so I don't think that feat is out of the realm of possibility. It's unlikely, don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible by any stretch. So that's the best I can see OKC doing next season, realistically. Overall though, these are my thoughts on the Oklahoma City Thunder. They did great in the draft, and I personally believe that Giddey was one of the best selections made on the night. You can hate all you want on the decision to select Josh, but I think it's pretty clear you don't know enough about him and his game if you're making those claims. The young core on this team is absolutely stacked now, headlined by Shai, Dort, and now Giddey. And if the squad can get things going offensively outside of Shai, they may be a more competitive team than we realize. I don't think this team is a playoff lock by any stretch. Don't get me wrong, there is still quite a way to go before they're at the peak of their powers. But looking at this roster right now, I don't see why they can't be a play-in tournament side next season. It'll be tough, but it's definitely possible. I have high hopes for OKC going into 2022. And personally, if they can remain healthy and play up to the potential that I believe they have, they can definitely surprise a lot of people next season. And that will conclude the video. What do you guys think of this? What are your thoughts on OKC's roster going into next season as of right now? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe. But with that being said, I am out. Peace.